Hi there. I'm Mallory, a BCBA and ACT coach slash mentor, author, things, speaker, blah, blah, blah. And the number one question that I get is, how do I become an ACT coach like you? I get this question from BCBAs. I get it from RBTs. I get it from behavioral students, usually accompanied with, do I really need my letters? And that's what we're going to get into in this video, is to talk about all of those things. So we're going to start with the word coach and ACT coach, and we're going to have a quick ethics discussion. So buckle up, because I want to just go straight for the thing that everybody's worried about. The word coach is an unregulated term. It means anybody can use the word coach. It's not like BCBA, where you have to have the specific set of credentials in order to say it. Otherwise, you're like breaking the rules, right? Anybody can call themselves a coach. Anyone with any level of education or any level of life experience can call themselves a coach. Yes, there are some certifications and stuff around like life coaching or nutrition coaching or whatever, but those are also not regulated in the same way that a board certified regulation is. Okay. So you could still call yourself a nutrition coach, even if you're not a certified nutrition coach, because you can. It's just not the same. Okay. Just the same way that you can call yourself a behavior analyst if you don't call yourself a board certified behavior analyst, right? It's just about the weight that we give them. All right. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that someone who is certified is better than someone who is not certified. I've looked at a ton of courses, and we're still talking about life coaching and nutrition coaching and things like that. We're just talking about the term coaching right now, where you just have to study for a weekend. Okay. And that might be less helpful than someone who's done self-study for a number of years and who's received support in different ways. Okay. So it's not really something that's measurable either. It has to do with the individual. It has to do with who you connect with, right? And sometimes that is what matters most. It's the who you connect with, and who speaks to you in your situation more than who is the most qualified. Now, that's a really challenging thought to have as a BCBA or as someone who's in that field, because we tend to believe hierarchically. And that's fine too, right? There's places for that. But when it comes to the word ACT coach, I made that shit up, guys. I didn't see anybody else doing that. There was not another person in the whole wide world doing that I found when I started what I was doing. And it was what was accurate to what I wanted to do. And since coach is unregulated, and since my ethics and my scope of competency allows me to feel comfortable with saying that I have the enough qualifications to be able to speak to helping people, supporting them in ACT, right? I just called myself that. Like, it's not a thing unless you make it a thing. That being said, how does one get comfortable becoming an ACT coach? Now, this is going to be where you interpret your ethics. For me, I chose the path of read a fuck ton of books. Okay. I've got like a whole bookshelf that's just ACT books. Okay. And I've read them all, and I've read the relational frame theory, and I've read in a wide variety of ACT, right? Like with different applications and different things. And I see how it comes together. I have also taken several courses. I've got over 150 CEUs at this point. I get them all from praxiscet.com. It's fantastic courses, and they're all like geared towards you learning something, right? If you need them to be CEUs for your BCBA credit, you need to double check, because not all of them are. But honestly, some of the ones that weren't were the best ACT courses that I took. The brief intervention for radical change is called Focused ACT, I think, on Praxis. It was fantastic. It's a lot of what the ACT I use. Okay, so take a bunch of courses, and then get some supervision. Okay, so I got supervision, one through the agency that I was running, but then two, I got private supervision with Dr. Gould, right, to be able to help her tell me that I was kind of doing it right, right? And that I was thinking about it in the right way. And for her to help me with a application to myself directly. Because when we start thinking about how we're doing ACT with ourselves is when we start getting super duper fluent and we start moving in a direction of like the life that we actually want to live, which is really modeling, right? For other people whom we might be supporting, which is very helpful for someone who's calling themselves a coach. Okay. So I got supervision. I've taken a ton of credits and I've read a bazillion books. And then I was practicing it supervised in the context of my ABA agency. And I've got years of support in my own therapy, right? So I had a DBT therapist who we sat down and we learned ACT together in the context of my therapy. And so like we figured it out together, right? So I had a PhD psychologist decoding how her frame of DBT fit ACT, and me, a behavior analyst, decoding how behavior analysis fits into ACT. So we kind of did that together. And we did that over a number of years with applied application to me and my problems, okay? Which then allowed me to, through the course of all of the books and all the course of the courses and the supervision, be able to apply that to my clients at the ABA agency that I worked at, and then stepping out on my own, okay? So that's the short answer. Okay. Just to continue, a quick nod to ethics here, your competency and confidence in your competency is your own. Nobody else can tell you what your competency is because you're the only one with your experience, right? And so it's going to be hard for one BCBA to say, well, I can't do ACT because X, Y, and Z, because everybody has different experiences and that doesn't necessarily generalize, right? My competency is completely different than other people's. And there are some behavior analysts who are probably not yet competent ACT practitioners, even though they are, sorry, I'm really stuffy here and I don't have any tissues, BCBAs. And that's okay. All right. They get to work on their competency, but it doesn't mean that yours is not there. Right. And so part of that is reconciling your ethics, right? Reconciling that. But I'm going to go ahead and offer a few things here from the ACT perspective to be able to throw in the messy pot that is becoming something that doesn't really exist, right? There's also imposter syndrome, okay? As academics, right? Which if you're, pursuing your BCBA or you have one, or you're maybe even finished with your graduate school and you're just taking your test soon, doing your hours, you are an academic, right? And a lot of the time when you're an academic, we think we have to reach a certain permission, and then we're the thing, right? And then we're able to do it. But you know what also happens is we get there to the thing and we're like, oh shit, what do I do now? And it's because we've spent so much time practicing the thought, I'm not that. I'm not a BCBA. I'm not an ACT coach. I will be if I continue to do all of these things. But at some point, you have to start transitioning your thoughts to I am this and I'm practicing it, right? And so that's where imposter syndrome comes in, right? We expect that when we become the thing, not only will we have permission, but we'll be experts, but we don't actually feel like experts when we get there. And so what does an expert feel like? For each one of us, that's going to be a journaling question. So I would encourage you to write that down and think about it. Maybe even pause this video right now. What does an expert feel like? And write that down. If you felt like an expert, what would it feel like, right? And then you get to go in and look are there times when I feel this way? Is it possible for me to invite in some of those feelings now? Can I start looking for the feelings, both emotional and experiential feelings, right? Like feeling of confidence, which is an emotional feeling, can sometimes experientially feel like a swelling of the chest, right? Or it can feel like maybe butterfly-y or tingly. Pride can feel like, think about how you experience it, right? Could that be available to you, right? Because what we have practiced is a lack of confidence, right? Looking to others for the answers, questioning or doubt in ourselves, right? And we know what that feels like, right? Sometimes it feels tightening, it feels constricting, it feels small for me, right? And you should ask yourself that too. What does a lack of confidence feel like, both emotionally and experientially? Pause this, do that as a journaling prompt right now. Because what you're looking for, you will find. And when you are at the point when you're practicing ACT with yourself and you're doing a really great job of monitoring your own experience, and you're able to start inviting in, oh, well, sure, a lack of confidence is present. I can feel that because for Mallory, my body feels smaller, right? Or I feel constricting, or I feel like almost like a pulling, like a lowering, like and it feels bad. It feels overwhelming. It feels exhausting even, right? Sure, that's present, but what else is present, right? And can I invite in a feeling of pride or swelling or a bigness, right? Can I invite in confidence in here? Is it present at the same time? Like, it's not one or the other, right? And when you get good at overcoming your imposter syndrome enough to be able to start calling yourself a certain thing and start feeling it for realsies, right? Maybe that's a time when we're starting to get to the point where we're feeling more competent, right? A lot of the times, people say, like, if you can't do, teach, right? Well, that's not the point here. we're not doing that, because when you do ACT for yourself, it's going to hit different, right? It's going to hit different. The other thing can be true too. You could be really good at doing it yourself and not so great at supporting others in it, right? And so one thing that I did is I did some free coaching, right? There's platforms on Facebook where you can do coaching exchange, and people just know that they're coaches who are sharpening their skills or who are new and who need practice, and they exchange their services to each other for free. And then you can start, and they understand that you're practicing, right? And so it's understood, right? It's also unregulated, so it's okay. And you can go try it out, right? And you can see like where you need to tighten up your shit, right? And that means you can go take that course, or you can go read that book, right? And that furthers your education. It's not bad, right? It's part of science. It's experimenting with where you are and what you want to do and how you want to live, right? And it's just about navigating the ethics in a way that allows you to be, as good as you can without holding everybody back. Because it's true that it's possible for people to do a little bit of harm, like say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or judge the situation different, incorrectly. But does that have to be the end of the world, right? Have we already done that in the course of our educational experience? And is the outcome of you being able to become a really potent helper, service provider, even though maybe you said a couple words wrong within the course of a sentence, or you misjudged one thing when you got all the rest of them really well, right? Is that even still very valuable because it gives you the opportunity to grow? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. As long as we are all in agreement and understanding that we are working towards doing better. And that's also a model for your clients, right? Because everybody makes mistakes. Like, it's just part of it, right? And can you give yourself permission to do so within your imposter syndrome? The next part that I want to talk about is perfectionism, right? We've got this idea that we have to be perfect, which I just hold on, buddy. I'm doing a video. I'll be right back. No, go on. I'll be back in just a minute. Sorry. And we just kind of debunked this idea that we have to be perfect. And that perfect is the goal. It's truly not. When we think about mastery criteria, how often do we really give 100% as the criteria? No. A lot of the times, your 60%, your 70%, your 80% is someone's life changed. And that is still worth going forward, making mistakes. So it's more about, can you hold space for your error and still move forward, right? Can it be worth it at the same time as it feels uncomfortable? And the last part that I want to talk about here is burnout. Burnout is prevalent in a service provider role, and it makes it really, really challenging for people to be able to move forward, right? Because we can't even imagine doing more than we're doing right now. And so, how on earth would we be able to take on the rest of this, right? And that's really important because as you do that, and it's going to mean that you have to take stock of where you are. Like, you won't be able to add this to your plate and be able to be really good at it or be able to make it successful, if you're still trying to put your energy in every other place in your life. Like, there is only a certain amount of energy, and there you can grow it by doing things that you love and things that excite you, right? Like, energizing activities that fill your cup and they give you more energy than they take, right? Being able to do those does that. But making the shift from all of the depletion in your work or in your life can be really hard because it's got behavioral momentum behind it. But we know about behavioral momentum, right? And we can break that down and start slowly by doing ACT with ourselves. Take the energy from one spot, right? Give ourselves permission to play around with the imposter syndrome, play around with the perfectionism, play around with the people pleaser, which fits into all of that too, and switch our burnout to life balance. And when we do that, right, when we work on our burnout, when we process our service provider trauma, right, that's when we start being able to move towards a life that we love. And that's how we become an ACT coach, if that's something that you're interested in doing. So I always recommend to people that they start on ACT with themselves. And in service providers, we have burnout that's super duper prevalent. And so that's where I always choose to start with people, is overcoming their burnout. I actually have a course that's going to be dropping, I think, tomorrow as I'm recording this, but maybe I will post this tomorrow, and so it'll be today, that you can go ahead and check out. I also have the Burnt Out BCBA to Balance Business Owner coming up, and if you are interested in doing that, it's going to be launching in February. But the burnout portion is the same. So if you buy the burnout portion course now, you're going to get a discount to be able to take that same amount off. Or you can wait until February and you can do them both at the same time. I also have another course that's going to be dropping at the end of February or beginning of March, which is Coaching Mindset, where I just teach you my strategies on how to coach. So I hope that if that feels supportive to you, then I hope that you join me. I already mentioned that I go to practicecet.com for my CEUs, my training courses. I mentioned that I read a lot of books, and I've got on my reels some different ones where I recommend books, and I can repost some of those if you guys drop a comment and ask me to. And I do offer supervision and mentorship, but there's lots of people who do too at this point. So if you look, I follow a lot of them. If you look in my followers list, you can probably see some of those people who are BCBAs and ACT coaches. And if you vibe with them, then ask them, right? Or they offer ACT mentorship. Or if I'm the one who you're interested in, you can get all of those packages that I just talked about for free by signing up for one-to-one all the things mentorship. You'll get all of those courses plus one-to-one mentorship with me, which includes case consultation. Okay. So that's how you become an ACT coach. I hope that was super interesting to you. If you know someone who this might be helpful to, please go ahead and send it to them. Like this video because it helps me so much, and subscribe if you want to hear more. Okay, thank you. And I look forward to seeing many more ACT coaches because I think ACT is amazing. And right now it's not really a part of ABA unless you check out the ACBS. So I forget what it stands for, but it's like cognitive behavioral something, okay, ACBS. And they have a lot of therapists and BCBAs and other clinicians who are in that area who come together over ACT. And they're the ones doing a lot of the research. Definitely check out big names like Stephen Hayes. You can read a lot of books by Russ Harris. There's also Kelly Wilson, obviously, Evelyn Gould, who's a boss, Kirk Strassel, Patty Robinson. There's lots of wonderful names. Look up some of those people and find their articles, and then go find more articles written by other people, right? Because those are going to be reference articles if you look up Hayes and Wilson and Strassel, okay? All right, so I'm going to go, but that's how you become an next coach. Let me know if you have any questions below. All right, I'll comment back. Bye.